I do journaling. I mean, there's
Okay.
so many things that I have to do to take care of myself as a spoony that I didn't even think about before. I just went, oh, I'm just gonna wake up and go to work and like the end. And that's not the case at all anymore.
Hello and happy welcome to the Rewilded Leader podcast. Today I'm here with Rebekah Moan. Rebekah is my interview guest today, and we're gonna talk about an amazing topic. I'm looking so forward to it. And I just let you introduce to the audience who are you, what are you doing, and what are we gonna talk about today?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So, my name is Rebekah Moan. I am a freelance journalist, content writer, editor, blogger, ghostwriter, all of the writing things. I do all of the writing things for all of the people. I mean, primarily, I like to work with people who are service minded and want to make the world a better place. And they do that primarily in the healing professions, but I also do corporate writing work and that sort of thing. And what I wanted to talk about today is rest and
Mm.
also the importance of detaching your sense of worth from productivity and instead acknowledging that you have value, even if you just sit on the couch and are watching Netflix all day. You are still a valuable, worthy human being.
Wow. That is such a powerful topic, and thank you so much that you bring that into that podcast, because yeah, all the listeners here are mainly women in business, and we all know how it is when we start our own business or when we are in it for a while. There is a certain pressure, a pressure to do, and also always coming in new ideas. And yeah, it's so important that we can disconnect from that mental, but sometimes also physical stress, and to lean into that self worth. So I'm really curious about today's topic. And before we start, I would love to know a little bit more about your story. So maybe you want to share, when did you came for the first time in touch with the importance of rest, and how have you lived before that aha moment?
So, I think for most people, our first models of how to be in the world come from our parents. And my parents are very hardworking, and my mom in particular, she almost never sits down. She would take issue with that description, but from my perspective, she's perpetually doing something. If she's watching TV, she also has sewing in her hand, and she's hemming, and she's baking all the time. And when I was a kid, we literally had a home cooked meal every night of the week that was made by my mom or my dad, and us kids were pitching in to help with that. And so I have first this model in the form of my mom, and then there's the societal message that we get living in a capitalistic society. And in a capitalistic society, the message over and over again is that you are only worth something if you are productive. The minute that you stop working, the minute that you're no longer able to do something to grow the bottom line, you're considered not worthy and kind of cast aside. I know this is different in other countries, the way that the elderly are treated, but here in the United States, it's very much a, oh, well, we kind of don't really care about you anymore. The healthcare system here for the elderly is terrible. People are forced into situations where they don't have the best doctors quite frequently. Of course, there are exceptions. And also, they're not actually given enough money to live. So, societally, there's also this message of if you are not able bodied, sorry,
Hmm.
like, good luck. Can't help you. We don't care about you. So that's kind of the framework. And then what happened to me is when I was 26, 27, I had this upstairs neighbor who started playing really loud bass music every night. And I called the police on him several times, and it just did nothing. And I just stopped sleeping. And then it set off this chain reaction of, because I was in such a stressed out place from my living situation, that it just kept continuing, and I was so hypersensitive. A friend of mine made a joke, and he said, I think you would wake up if you heard a mouse fart. Like I was so sensitive that I was bothered by the hum of a refrigerator. I was very adrenalized. So basically my adrenal glands were working way too hard. And then this just continued and kept cascading. And then because of that lack of sleep, all my other systems kind of started to go haywire. My digestion started to get terrible. I had brain fog. I was a mess. I was a mess. And then a part of what happened is that I kept moving all over creation to try to find like the perfect place for me to settle into. So I moved on average every 3 months for 3 years, like looking for the right place to live. And sometimes I would stay in a place for a year, but sometimes I would stay in a place for like 6 weeks. And so during this period, I started to go, you know, I think there's something wrong. something is something is not quite right here. I'm pretty sure that the answer is not that I need to go find the perfect place, because at one point I was living in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. So I know you're in Sweden. That doesn't mean much to you, but so Missouri is this country that's in the middle of the United States. It has a very low population. It's very much the country. The closest grocery store wasn't even a grocery store, it was a super Walmart. So I don't know what the equivalent would be. It'd be like a a very not um, well developed IKEA or something. Like, because I know IKEA has a food hall, but like the Super Walmart is basically a a big department store that also sells a little bit of food, but not much. So this is like literal middle of nowhere
Yeah.
United States, and even there, I was not sleeping. And so I tried all of these things. Let's take this herb. Let's take this sleeping pill. Let's do this thing, that thing. Let's talk to a shaman. Maybe there's something weird energetically. I did everything. And this went on for 7 years. I didn't sleep for 7 years. And then finally, I had a sleep study, and my doctor was very not helpful. When the results came back, she said, have you tried meditating? And I went, I've literally been meditating every day since I was 18. I don't need to add in meditation. Something is wrong. And when I looked at the data, I was waking up 17 times an hour. And I went, how can you tell me that this is normal? This is not normal. This is not normal. And so I kept going out and trying to find somebody who could help me. And I finally found a a sleep doctor who said, "Oh, you have upper airway resistance syndrome." So what that means is it's similar to sleep apnea, but it's not quite the same. So with sleep apnea, your throat closes. But with upper airway resistance syndrome, your throat narrows. So it's like sucking air through a straw. And what that means is that my brain was not getting enough oxygen as I was sleeping every night. And that's what was causing me to wake up 17 times an hour. And part of the reason it took so long to get the sleep study is because I didn't have any symptoms that are usually associated with a sleep disorder. I wasn't snoring, I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
overweight, I didn't have any kind of those signs that doctors would say, "Oh, well, let's get a sleep study for you." But I did finally get one. I did finally talk to this doctor. They fitted me with this oral appliance. It looks like a night guard for the top and bottom teeth, and it makes sure that my throat is open when I'm sleeping at night. And the first night that I wore it, it made a huge difference. I was finally able to sleep pretty well through the night, and we did a follow-up sleep study, and now I'm only waking up 3 times an hour as opposed to 17. So I made a
Wow.
huge difference in my life. And the interesting piece and what's relevant to this conversation is that I thought that once my sleep got sorted, that everything would go back to normal. But it didn't. That's not what happened. I'm reading this book by Francis Weller called The Wild Edge of Sorrow. And he talks about how a chronic illness or health condition, a challenge, is a gate into grief, that it's an initiation into a new way of being, that there's something that you are learning from that experience, and you cannot go back to the person that you were before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happened for me. So even though I'm definitely getting better sleep now than I was 7 years ago, I'm still tired. I still have limited energy. I'm now a spoony. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but it comes from Christine, I'm not sure I say her name right, Miseradino. I think that's how you say her last name. She came up with this um, theory, this metaphor, when she was just trying to describe to a friend what it's like living with lupus. She was out at a restaurant and she grabbed a bunch of spoons from various tables and she said to her friend, "Every time I do anything, it takes a spoon. Washing dishes, spoon gone. Walking the dog, spoon gone. Making dinner, spoon gone. And when all the spoons are gone, they're gone. There's no reserve. I can't push through and somehow find the energy and the capacity to take a shower. If the spoons are gone, they're gone." And so I very much relate to that. I really have to guard my energy and make a very conscious decision about what I'm saying yes to and what I'm saying no to, because now I come first as opposed to this messaging that I received from society, not so much from my mom, but definitely from society, of that work comes first, that productivity comes first, that I have to do whatever it is that I need to do in order to make sure that I'm making money, that I'm like working on the book, that I'm doing the million things to feed into a capitalistic society.
Mm-hmm.
And now instead it's, wait, what do I need? What works for me? What do I want to do? That's not necessarily related to how productive can I be. It's,
Mm-hmm.
who am I now as a person? Do I have worth even when I am incapable of making myself dinner?
Aw.
That, yeah, that's the question. That's the issue that I'm constantly holding
Mm-hmm.
and nurturing now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for sharing until here. What a story. A little question to
Sure.
understanding. At that moment when you, or before you had that aha moment of, okay, I have this, how do you call it? Upper.
Upper airway resistance syndrome.
Upper airway resistance syndrome.
Yeah.
Have you been self-employed before, or were you employee?
No, I was employed by a publication,
Okay.
and this was pre-pandemic, so it was the years 2011 to 2018. And luckily at that time, it, they were letting me work from home just from the
Mm-hmm.
beginning because they didn't have enough office space. And I'm a writer, I'm a journalist, and so I was working as a copy editor and a journalist for them. And so they were letting me work at home and submit my stories at home, and it was part time. So I was only working,
Okay.
I don't know, 25 hours a week or something, and
So,
just barely getting by.
so when you get self-employed, what you are today, um, I would like to dive a little bit into that, because it's something else when you are employed and you have that realization of, okay, I need more rest, and I want to spend more time taking care of my health, of myself, and to get on well. And then you're getting independent, you are self-employed, and suddenly you don't have that security net of, okay, you gain that and that per month, and you work in this and this long, and that's the frame. How was
Mm-hmm.
that shift for you?
Yeah, it was a big shift. So what's interesting is the month that I was finally sleeping through the night, I went, I don't actually want to work for this company anymore. I don't want to be here. I mean, I had been building and building and building, but when my sleep finally got situated, I had the strength to say, I quit. I can't do this. And in part, what happened is I realized how important creativity was for me. And the job that I was working at the time, they're great. I still do some work for them sometimes, but they would literally delete any adjective that I included in my writing. Like, no description. It was
Mm-hmm.
straight news, straight facts, nothing else. And I realized how much I didn't like that, of how important creativity was for me. So I quit without having anything else lined up. And I wasn't ready to be self employed, actually. And I kept applying for other jobs, and it didn't come together. And then 24 hours after I quit, I got scooped up by this private school. And they were not very understanding or accommodating of being a spoony. And we'd set it up so that I could work from home 3 days a week. But somehow, after a couple of months, they decided that that wasn't actually working for them. So this was 2019. And
Mm-hmm.
then I spent the most, this was in March 2019. And then I spent the rest of that time applying for all these other jobs, and nothing was coming. But what was coming to me was a bunch of freelance work, and people asking me to do contract gigs, and can you write this for me for a short time? And oh, we have this story coming up, and we have this overflow of work. And so I was not intending to be self employed. But then that's what was showing up in my life. So then
Mm-hmm.
finally, in November of 2019, I went, okay, let's do it. Let's officially start my own business.
Yeah.
And then I did. And a part of that genesis is I was having a conversation with my therapist, and he said to me, the way to find your genius is to think about what it is that lights you up, what it is that you really enjoy doing, and then what is it that people come to you for. And then the combination of those two is where your genius lies. And so for me, what I love doing is writing. I've been doing it since I graduated from university in 2006. And then what people come to me for is they always want to talk about some kind of therapeutic topic. They want to talk to me about attachment. They want to rehash their dates with me. They want to come to me for empathy. And I said, okay, well, how can I combine these two? I definitely don't want to go back to school to become a therapist. And I'm far too introverted to talk to people all day long. So why don't I ghostwrite for therapists instead? I can talk about psychological topics and put somebody else's name on it so that I don't actually have to go back to school. And I was like, great, brilliant. That's what I'm doing. It's a part of my business, not all of it, but that's partly what I've been doing since November 2019.
Wow. So, okay, so it was a little bit different for you. It was not a, okay, I'm gonna get independent now and I have to search for my work and where are clients, because I think that this is a part that can create a lot of stress, that when we are not handling it in a good way, that keeps going forever.
Mm-hmm.
But for you it was, if I understand it right, a little bit different, because there were more like clients coming and then
Yeah.
taking you on that wave of
Yeah.
okay, let's
Yeah.
be freelance. um, how did you create your life around your business from beginning on, respecting that, let's call, spoony life?
Yeah. I mean, and I will say too that it's interesting because now I've been in business for 4 years. And in the beginning, I had this kind of lovely little push and flow of here you go. Here are the clients, here are the things.
Mm-hmm.
And then now that I'm established, now I'm having to kind of backtrack and do the, oh, okay, actually how do I attract more people? Because I'm not having enough work at the moment. So if any of your listeners need any writing help, I do SEO work and all the things. Contact me. I'm available.
We're gonna put the link in
So
the show notes.
I know. Link in the show notes, RebekahMoan.com. So I am having to do it now, but my life and business is structured around being a spoony, in that every day I have to take a nap 4 hours after I wake up. I literally cannot keep my eyes open. And so that means that I don't schedule any interviews around that time. I don't do any writing around that time. I make sure that I'm home so that I can take a nap at that time. And I also have to think about, all right, how much energy do I have today? Can I write this thing, or is it better for me to do editing? It's like every day I have to wake up and kind of assess, how do I feel? How much energy is here? What's the deadline that I'm working on versus what my capacity is to meet that deadline? And I have to really, think about that and juggle it constantly in my brain.
um, Spoony life.
Yeah.
For you, regaining spoons is basically sleeping, or can it be also something else? What did you
It's a lot of
experience?
things. It's not only sleeping. I mean, sleep is the cornerstone, but it's also about doing restorative practices. So I do yin yoga to make sure that I'm nourishing my nervous system. I also do a lot of yoga nidra for the same thing, of to put my body into a state of rest. I do tapping, or EFT, to help me process the emotions and clear the energetic things. I don't know what else do I see a chiropractor who is a network spinal analysis. It's basically a gentle touch as opposed to snap, crackle, pop into place. She just lightly touches a part of my neck, and then I breathe into it, and then somehow I adjust myself, and I do journaling. I mean, there's
Okay.
so many things that I have to do to take care of myself as a spoony that I didn't even think about before. I just went, oh, I'm just gonna wake up and go to work, and like the end. And that's not the case at all anymore.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Because I can imagine that there are people listening who say, okay, yeah, I can understand resting, but I cannot sleep all the time. But it's
Right.
important to mention that rest isn't only sleeping. It can be
Correct.
so many other things that helps you to regulate your nervous system and to
Mm-hmm.
calm
Mm-hmm.
down. So maybe not watching a horror movie, or I don't know, does
Oh,
not
I
have.
definitely. cannot watch a horror movie. That is
No, no way.
way. I can't even watch thrillers at this point. There's I'm very careful about what it is that I'm consuming.
Okay, so thanks for that explanation. I had to think about that for so many times during our discussion until now. Um, when I hear you talking, I hear you mainly speaking about human design projectors. Do you know human
Mm.
design a bit?
I do know human design a bit, and I think that I don't remember which one it is. I looked this up recently because multiple people have talked about human design, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that I'm one that I didn't anticipate that I would be. Like I'm a maybe a generator. I don't remember, but like one the one that I was like, what? Really?
We're gonna talk about that later. I'm super
All right,
interested.
all right.
But yeah, so just I want to get to know, or I want to know that all everybody that's listening here, that if you are a non-sacral being, so reflector, also a bit manifestor, and also projectors, these types, when you are listening and you're one of these types, it's probably you can relate to what Rebekah is talking about, what she's saying, because especially for projectors, they are asked to do a lot of rests, exactly to regain their spoons and to regulate their nervous system in a way that they can come back into their neutral state again. So that's so interesting to hear you talking. I would love to dive a little bit deeper into the topics of self-worth and
Mm-hmm.
also how it is to live a life, create a business, and yeah, live a daily life in society as you call it, a spoony, as a person who does not have a lot of energetic reserves, because we know how society is. And maybe
Yeah.
you can talk a little bit about what you experienced changing your life and adapting it to your inner truth, to your needs, and not to what society says.
It's very difficult. It's something that I am constantly working over and reminding myself of and working on acceptance for, because there's a part of me that does want to go back to normal, quote unquote normal. And I have grief about the person that I was that I no longer am. And when I look at other people who are working full time and they have two kids and they've written three books and they're, I don't know, still exercising and making dinner from scratch, I just go, oh my God, I wish that was me. I wish that I could do that, but I can't. Having a physical limitation really forces me to know myself. And so I've had to do a lot of kind of deep meditation and reflection of what is it that I am offering? Who am I being in the world? And is it okay that maybe my path looks different from somebody else's path? And a part of what helps me is remembering that we are relational beings, and that's really what we care about. I mean, we think that we care about money, but actually, we really care about relationships and friendship and romantic and, all the relationships of that. At the end of the day, we want to know that we're loved, that we mattered, and that we've been seen, heard, and understood. That's what we want. And so the work that I do internally and for clients helps to create that. I'm an incredibly loving person. I'm in a yoga and meditation organization, and I have a Sanskrit name, and it's Radha. And Radha means personification of love. And it also shows up in my astrological chart. I have Venus conjunct Jupiter at my ascendant. So a friend of mine characterizes it as I have love exploding from every direction. So for me, I remind myself it's coming from two places of number one, the divine source universe is beaming love down on me all the time, regardless of what I do, regardless of if I finished a deadline or how much money I made this month. There's just this unconditional love constantly that is being rained down upon me. And when I feel into that, that's when I know peace. And then the other thing is that the love then comes through me and out into the world. And that's another thing that cannot be measured. No one's going to give me $1 million because I'm a loving person. It's just not going to happen. But it doesn't mean that it's worthless. In fact, it's priceless.
Mm.
You can't put a monetary value on what it is that I'm doing in the world. So that's a part of how I come back into the space of self-worth of, oh, I'm a human being that came onto this planet for a very specific particular reason. And if there wasn't a reason, I wouldn't be here. Every
True.
person
Yeah.
is here for a particular reason, and for some people that's to write a best-selling book, and for other people it's to be a mom, and for other people it's
Mm.
to have a business that they love coaching, or whatever it is. We all have something that we
Mm.
are here to do, and it's not necessarily tied to how much money we're making. Some people, sure, but not everybody.
Yeah. Wow. And that shows, again, so much also how much we project on money.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think this is really something also a bit dangerous when we unconsciously connect our self worth to the money we make in a business or
Yep.
that we have on our bank account. Or
Hmm.
yeah, do when I listen to you, it sounds quite easy, you know. I am sure that everyone who's listening to that podcast already had that moment of, yeah, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling loved, I feel that I'm giving love,
Hmm.
but it's mainly about the hard moments, about that moment that we don't feel it, and that we are kind of in a crisis or in an emotional breakdown, and we're just here like, oh my god, what am I doing here? Or when we think about stopping that wheel that we are in, it just creates, it scares us, it creates a lot of fear. So do you have any practical advice or a tip or a SOS thing to do for these moments that you used in your past or even now?
Yeah, so many things. I mean,
Oh,
first and
okay.
foremost, yeah, all the things.
Give it to me.
I mean, first and foremost, if I'm really in a state and there's nobody available to talk to, because that's my first approach is let's call somebody. But if nobody's answering the phone, then I will start tapping and just
Mm-hmm.
talking out loud. If I'm really sad, I'm really upset, I'm really scared, and just tapping on the various points and talking. And that's kind of an immediate release valve. But the thing that actually makes a bigger difference, but takes a lot more time, still long term though, is doing inner child work.
Mm.
Honestly, when I'm scared, upset, feeling unloved, it's usually because my inner child is the one that's coming out and saying, "Hi, I need
Mm.
parenting. I
Mm.
need tending. Can you pay attention to me?" And one of my former therapists, he recommended that I get a. I'm gonna pull it out actually. This is a visual for
Oh,
anybody who gets to see the visual.
yes.
But for those of you who do not get to see the visual, I have a little golden retriever puppy, and this represents my inner child. So this is little Rebecca,
It's
and
not a
when we
real dog, just for
not a
everyone.
real dog. This is a stuffed animal.
Yeah.
It's a stuffed golden retriever. And what I do is I hold this little golden retriever dog stuffed animal up to my cheek like you would cuddle a baby, and I say, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not ever going anywhere. I'll meet all your needs. There's nothing about you that would keep me from meeting your needs. And I say that over and over and over again. Those are mothering messages, but sometimes you need fathering messages. And fathering messages, you hold the stuffed animal like a little football in the crook of your arm and make sure that it's facing out. And the fathering messages are, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not ever going anywhere. I'll protect you. You can do it. Go ahead and try. And then I'll repeat those messages over and over and over again. So that my inner child feels like, oh, somebody's here. Somebody loves me. Somebody's taking care of me. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to make money. I'm an infant. Why would I make money? It's she's just taken care of already just for being alive. So that's my other big tip, but takes a long time. I literally did this every day for a year,
Wow. That
but
is,
it made a difference.
thanks so much for showing and for explaining. Um, it was just so powerful to see you doing that. And even
Mm.
just looking at you, it felt so healing and so close. It feels like my inner child got something that the puppy had in that moment. Even my inner child was here, like, oh yeah, it's true, I feel loved. Like with the
Yeah,
father energy, I feel protected. I feel like, yeah,
yeah,
I can do it.
that's
Empowered.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow, thank you so much for showing this exercise.
yeah,
I would like to hook up at a thing that you said. You said
sure.
calling somebody. And I think that's an important point because who are you going to call and how do you decide that this is the person? Because I think it is a person that has to understand you and not saying you, what are you crying here? I'm working and you're crying
Mhm.
in your
Yeah,
kitchen floor.
yeah. I have to think about who are the friends that are compassionate and empathic that would be able to receive this. So
Mm,
I don't call a friend that's super intellectual or in their head or hasn't done a lot of the inner work. I
mm-hmm,
call somebody who's been in therapy or has nonviolent communication training or has been in 12-step recovery or something. I call somebody who I've established that it's safe to
mm-hmm,
connect with them
mm,
when I'm having an intense emotional reaction.
mm. Yeah, I think that is really important that we choose consciously who we
Yeah.
talk to in which moments.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. And I'm very blessed, but also I've done the work to
Mm-hmm.
have these kind of relationships
Mm-hmm.
of I'm open with them, they're open with me. It's taken a lot to cultivate that within myself of holding that capacity. Because here's the other thing of if I'm not able to sit with my own emotions, I can't sit with your emotions. If I want to shut them down in myself, I'm going to want to shut them down in you.
Mm.
And so by me working to say, hey, it's okay. You can have this feeling and I'm here and I'm holding it. That means that somebody else can do the same
Mm.
because sometimes the outside world is a reflection of the inside world. Like very often, but I won't say always because I don't think it's always true, but often it is. So I worked on myself and that meant that somebody else can have that outside reflection of, yes, I'm here to witness you having this response and I'm not going to try to fix you,
Mm.
which is what I used to do and what some people still try to do in my life. And then I have to say, no. I mean, I literally do this with my mom. She's so much better at this than she was in the past. But she would say, don't be sad. And I would say, no, I'm sad and I'm allowed to feel sad. And I don't need your solution right now. I want some empathy. And then she'll go, oh, okay. I'm sorry. Sounds like you're feeling sad. Do you have a need for connection, or whatever it is. Like, I've literally trained some people in my life
Yeah.
to respond the way that I want them to respond.
Yeah, wow, that is such a big point. And it shows how important clear communication is. But for that, we need
Mm-hmm.
to know our needs. We need to know, okay, what do I need right now? Do I need a solution, or do I just need somebody who give me a hug and tell me that everything's gonna be fine, even though I don't know how. So yeah, very well done to also give you that time and that space to get to know your needs and then have
Yeah.
the courage to communicate that with your loved ones. Hmm.
Yeah. I highly, highly recommend doing nonviolent communication. There's a free year-long course called the Compassion Course, and it comes from the New York Center for Nonviolent Communication, and they teach you all about feelings and needs and how to communicate with other people. And it was very, very helpful
Hmm.
for learning my own self, but then also being able to interact with other people in a more harmonious way.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Um, I have a question, but I think that I know already the answer. But if there isn't, what is more important for you? Is it your business and that you can share with the world through the work that you do, or to live a life around that business that is in alignment with who you feel inside you?
For me, it's to live a life that's in alignment with who I am, because the thing is that the business that I have is only one part of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's only one way that I'm showing up in the world. I also show up in the world through my relationships. I show up by this blog that I have called Another World is Probable, and I've written in it once a week, every week for 15 years. But I don't really make money off of that. I also have a novel that I'm working on. There's so many things that I am doing in the world, and I recognize that the business that I have is just one small slice. And sometimes it's in an ebb, and sometimes it's in a flow period, and sometimes it's in an ebb period. But that's okay, because I'm doing all of these other things as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's more important to me: of, do I like the life that I'm living right now, not how much money am I making every month.
Mm. Yes. What would you say to a person who is listening to that podcast right now, and this woman has a business? Maybe she's self employed, maybe she's also a leader of a team, CEO, and she loves what you just said, and she wants to live the same life as you do, but there is that big thing in her head and that voice that says, I cannot do it because I am way too responsible for my business.
Yeah, I would say to remember who it really belongs to. One of my favorite spiritual teachers is Tosha Silver, and she wrote a book called It's Not Your Money. And she says that everything belongs to source, or the creator, or the universe, or whatever, and it's on loan to you for now. And that means, instead of saying my money, my business, my book, my partner, you say the money, the book, the business, the partner,
Mm.
because it creates a little bit of a detachment instead. Because essentially, what she's teaching, and a practice that I've worked on, I'm still working on, is recognizing that I am partnering with the universe to co create the things in my life. And that means that I cannot take full responsibility for anything. And to recognize that money can come from anywhere and everywhere. I could get this literally happened to me. I do not speak fluent Spanish. I'm learning it through Duolingo.
Mm.
And I have a friend who said, "Hey, do you want to be a Spanish translator for me on Friday?" This was last Friday. And I said, "I'm not fluent. And he said, that's okay. So I literally got paid to be a pretend Spanish translator, like just a random
Yeah.
out of the blue thing,
Yeah.
or like I'll get a check for back pay or, whatever. I mean, the money can just come from lots of different sources if you recognize that this life, this is one of my favorite quotes from Tosha Silver. This life now belongs to love and anything can happen.
Mm.
When you live from that space, it means that you understand the source of your money is not your business. It can be, but the true source is the divine beloved. That's really where it's coming from.
Goosebumps. Wow. So I feel that this is a beautiful ending. Thank you so much for everything that you said until now. If there is something that you would like the listeners to know right now before we end, please go ahead and also remind everyone again how they can contact you, how can they work with you. The stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you. I would just say for anybody who's listening to remember that you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to do things well immediately. That a part of the process here is that we are learning to do something differently and to be patient with yourself. It takes time. It's taken me many, many, many years to be able to feel the way that I feel and share the things that I'm sharing. So I just would encourage any listeners to just be gentle with
Mm.
themselves and be patient and just have a lot of love for where
Mm.
you are. You're here in this particular place for a reason from your upbringing or whatever. A lot of things came together for you to feel the way that you currently feel. And so
Mm.
have some compassion for yourself in this moment.
Mm.
And then in terms of how to connect with me, you can connect with me through my website, RebekahMoan.com, and that's spelled REBEKAH.Moan. Sorry, that's my email.
Well,
You can
go
connect me
ahead
through
with
my
the
email
email.
too. Rebekah.moan, MOAN at gmail.com. I've had to repeat that so often that it just slips right out. My website, though, is similar. It's RebekahMoan.com.
So
So
one word.
also spelled the same, all one word. REBEKAHMOAN.com.
Okay.
Yeah. And then for anybody who's just wants to hear the wisdom that I'm sharing every week, I have a blog and it's called anotherworldisprobable.com. And it is that long. And I'm not
Mm.
going to spell it
Yeah.
because no weirdness about it. It's
I'm
the
gonna
way that it
put it in
sounds.
the show notes.
Anotherworldisprobable.com. And you can check the show notes if you're like, what did she say? Those are, those are the two main places to connect with me.
Wow. Thank you so much that you shared your story, that you shared your insights and everything that you learned and you embody today, and that you inspired many people that are listening today. Thank you for that talk and for your
Thank you so
time.
much. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
What an amazing interview. I feel still so inspired by listening to this episode over and over again. I hope that you have a lot of insights that you will bring into your daily life. And if you're longing for integrating your unique needs and meeting them in your daily life as a woman in business, then I invite you to jump over to my website and check out how I can support you with doing that to bring more fulfillment, harmony, and inner balance in your life. I wish you a wonderful day. If you like this episode, don't miss the chance to follow this podcast and rate it on your favorite platform. And we see each other next time. And don't forget, let's rewild, honey.